We spoke about secret sauce a little while. If you want to know what the secret sauce is, I believe that I'm a black belt in communication. I'm a black belt in relationships. I'm not a black belt in all areas of technique, but I don't profess to be. But I think in order how to get like the best out of people is about man management.
Hi guys, welcome back to All Out Fighting's Deep Dive. Today we are with Manchester Top Team's head coach, Carl Prince. Carl, thank you very much for joining us, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having us, gentlemen. Yeah, good to see you guys in a different arena.
Yeah, very, very different. So, Roshan, I think you're kicking us off, mate.
Yeah, it's great to have you on, Carl. Our first question is, how have you kind of gone from just a guy who loves MMA to one of the best coaches in England?
I'm still just a guy who loves MMA, really. I think I was pretty fortunate that in my lifetime a sport like this emerged. I was like a youth looking for. I was a big fan of boxing growing up. Like obviously, I believe that I grew up in the golden era of boxing, from Chris Eubank to Prince Nassim, and then me and my friends always had like an active interest in like kickboxer, JCVD, all this type of stuff. And then it was like, yeah, but which martial art would win? And then in our lifetime, we got into those questions. So I really got into MMA like probably about 3 years after the inception of the UFC. I remember finding it one night on a night out and everything like that, and just be like, I need to get a little bit more of that. And then chased after Pride DVDs when it used to come out. And then obviously to the point where like MMA really emerged after a tough one. I remember when we was online on like Sherdog forums, which is a bit of an in thing, but everyone was then become a tough noob, and we got a bit snobby about tough noobs getting into it. And then obviously the sport emerged as I continued on my journey through my own life. And then, yeah, as you said, went from a guy to now being the authority to around 150 active fighters. So yeah, it's been a great journey, but just believe that it's just getting started.
Yeah, and obviously you've been going about 7 years now with Top Team. Can you kind of talk us through the evolution of the gym? Because obviously you started in 2019 and now it is one of the well-regarded gyms in the country.
Yeah, we kind of had a previous inception. We basically, there was a gym called All Powers, which still actually remains. It was a Thai boxing gym. And then I just got asked one day to come and put on some MMA classes. There was already like maybe 3 or 4 fighters that had started there under Brendan Loughnane, who went on to win like the PFL World Championship. So I was quite fortunate in the fact that I was presented with a couple of people that were already like fight ready, like game ready, like so. And then from there, we went through competitions, and we're known as really like a real striking gym from the outset. And then just before COVID occurred, I moved back I was like matchmaking at an event in Las Vegas, moved back from Las Vegas, like now it's time to make the jump and get our own gym. And we started off with maybe like 6 fighters, and the numbers kept adding up, and everybody kind of closed in COVID, and we stayed open by virtue. Like we had like an elite fighter in there, and we got like an exception from the government to keep going. And then people came and never left, and then people came and never left, and people came and never left. And yeah, like you said, 7 years on, here we are. We've got between 40 and 50 active professionals, depends on the day, and more than that in amateurs, and then a big emerging junior team. So it's good to see it grow and blossom, but it's good to sometimes look to see how far you've come, but also to understand that the journey's just began, and we've got dreams to chase. And it's good to be known as one of the biggest teams in England, one of the biggest teams in Europe, but our goal and what will occur is the fact that we'll be known as the best team in the world, and that's where we're going.
Yeah. So obviously you're talking a bit about like the origin of the team. What have you sort of created over at Manchester Top Team that you feel other gyms are missing? Like what's the secret sauce that Manchester Top Team has that you think maybe other gyms lack?
You see, fighting's an individual sport, as you are very aware, but I come from like a team sport background. I think the benefit of what I have is experience within like other sports and other realms, and understanding that I don't think coaching and leading something is necessarily about what you know. It's about who you are, and then what kind of environment that you create. So I think there's no secret. The only secret would perhaps be more consistent than other people. Like my guys know that if they show up on a Monday morning at this time, I'm going to be there. My guys know that if it's 7 o'clock on a Tuesday and they need some help and assistance in the outside life, that I'll be the first person that they call. And I think that that's what you develop within the community, and like that then is taken on board by all the guys. So like I do see. I travel around the world a lot. I go to other gyms a lot. I see what other teams do, and I think I do oftentimes see a team of individuals. But I only believe in the community and in the team. And like, if one of us win, we all win. I think there's like, one of us go to war, we all go to war. And like, I want to win and lose together. I don't want to be like in around a team of individuals, and I believe that's what we've harnessed. That's what we're really growing because of that. And I think when everybody comes in, it's like, don't get me wrong, it's not a nice community at times. We're making fun of one another and like get humbling people on the daily, whether that be on the mat or off the mat. And if anybody starts thinking above the station, they soon get a bit of social correction, and sometimes at the forefront of that. But by virtue of that, we have a high level of trust. And now, I think when I first started, I did have a team of individuals. When it was All Powers, it was a team of very good individuals. But now we're a real team. When we go to shows, people know that it's not just like 2 or 3 guys there. I gain great pride when I turn around and I see 20 or 30 people celebrating or commiserating by virtue of the results, the people that are in there. So yeah, I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be around good people, and long may it continue.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
sorry, Roshan, go ahead.
You spoke about that trust and that community. Obviously, we had Louis Lee Scott in here last week, talking about how he'd stayed at your house for a good amount of time when he first started training. I know you've had other guys sleep at the gym, stay at your house. What does that kind of mean for you? Because you've obviously got really good close connections with fighters. And I think as a fighter with a close connection to my coach, myself, those kind of things like really allow you to go to the next level. So what
I think it's the most important thing, isn't it? It's that, like, relationships to me are the most important things. I got into sports because I like to challenge myself. I like the winning aspect of it, but I also like people, and I want to like. I had a lot of people in my journey through football, through cricket, and in fighting that really helped me. And I always saw my job, not even my job, but my role in life is to be like I was always like the captain of teams and everything like that. I was always kind of the bridge between people. And like for me, I get no greater thrill in the fact that I'm in a great position where I can help people and like whether that's safe passage, give them somewhere to live, some money to eat, and then we all enjoy together. So like the building of personal relationships and the development of that is, if you want, we spoke about the secret sauce a little while. If you want to know what the secret sauce is, I believe that I'm a black belt in communication. I'm a black belt in relationships. I'm not a black belt in all areas of technique, but I don't profess to be. But I think in order how to get like the best out of people is about man management. I learned that from football, and I learned that it's not a one size fits all method where you can teach everybody the same. You can treat everybody the same. And I've built relationships with absolute would-be serial killers, really, and made them into professional fighters and everything like that. So yeah, and if you want to go back to Louis Lee Scott, I even got him a house, and for 6 months he still stayed at mine. I was like, your house is just around the corner. You can go move into it anytime you want. He's like, well, it's a pretty good setup here and everything like that. So now these guys are not just fighters, they're not just people. These guys are family to me. So whatever they need, they know that I'm there for that.
Amazing. So was there a particular, because obviously what you've described there is like an amazing ethos, regardless of what level you're competing at. Like having that community is super important at any level of competition. But was there a particular point where you realized what I've built here is not just your standard MMA gym? Like because Manchester Top Team is elite. You guys really have some of the best performers in the UK. Was there a particular point where you realized that threshold had been reached, or has it always just kind of been a slow drip, drip, drip?
I wouldn't say there's ever been a realization. Like sometimes you get outside validation. Do you know? You get people coming and telling you how, like, what you've made here. Some people that I respect from my journey have come over from America, and like they can't believe that the team ethos we've got, the community that we've got, and it's nice to hear. But you know, when you're in the midst of it, and then when you have a dream and a vision and a goal and purpose, I don't think that I don't make time. It's not in my, like, maybe at the end of it, maybe when this, like, the goal has been reached. I don't know if it'll ever be reached because it's just an emerging goal, but maybe at the end of it all, when it's all said and done, then I'll be like, okay, look what we created here. But I just believe that we're still creating. So it's nice to hear it. I had like mentors from America that helped me out in coaching that have come to the gym, and they said, I'm so proud of you. This what you've created here is fantastic. But and that's nice. It's nice to hear. But I'm not here for that. I'm here to to surpass everybody's expectations, to surpass my own expectations. I'm here to create something that will be spoken about in terms of legacy. I'm here to change the game and change everybody's perspective on life. And until that occurs, I won't rest. So it's good. It's nice to hear, but it's not the end.
So you talked a bit about sometimes people need correction and sometimes there are rules that need to be enforced. What is like there might not be just one, but if there were one, what's like the biggest non-negotiable on the mats at Manchester Top Team?
Well, on the mats and off the mats is two different issues, Harry. Yeah. So on the mat, obviously I don't think you need to go to many gyms to understand that the way that you become a good training partner, okay, is by A, drilling correctly, B, making sure that your partner is safe and the rest of the gym is safe. That's a non-negotiable. Yeah. For me, high standards is not a non-negotiable. You complete the drill, you win the drill. Doesn't mean that you win the fight. You complete the task at hand. On the mat, that's non-negotiable. In sparring, again, there's non-negotiables. If you hurt somebody, let it be a mistake, ideally, and also that is the end of that, and everything steps in. And I'm blessed that I've never had to get in that position where I've had to step in and be, come on, boys, this is not what we're going to. Don't get me wrong, sometimes it gets a bit heated, and I don't shout a lot, so like the power of the shout then occurs, and then you get to those things. Off the mat, fighting is 100% mental. 100% mental. It's the most important attribute that any fighter can have is mental toughness. But also, if you have a big ego, I believe that is damaging. So if people are coming off and we can talk about something that disparate from fighting, anything whatsoever, but if you have an ego about your opinion, whether your opinion is valid or not, but if you're holding it, then that's where the line is drawn, you know. And then we will make fun of you, we'll make fun of everything you've ever said in order to like break that. Because I feel like everybody needs an ego, everybody has an ego, but in fighting, if someone can challenge your ego, and that's where you like then can start trying to raise the bar and make it emotional. So I'll challenge that off the mat, so then that'll break you in some ways without that. I was quite an emotional person. I think that I was pretty good at a lot of sports, but I think if I was to look at myself retrospectively, maybe it's because I'm ginger and angry, but I think emotionally that's where I failed in a lot of my approach to it. So now that was a great learning experience for me to pass on to other people. That if your ego gets in the way of your learning, if the ego gets in the way of your development in the community, then that's something that needs to get knocked down a peg or two every day. Nice. Forever and ever.
Also, kind of related to this then, because does that strategy change as guys become higher and higher level? You know, obviously there's kind of a universal level of ego that everybody has. But naturally, as you become, you know, you've got guys approaching UFC superstardom. Does it become harder to deal with that? Or do you feel that once those guys have bought into the system, do they even proliferate it for you?
Yes, is the answer. And you had the greatest guy ever at proliferating it here last time. Again, I think that what happens is if you embed a culture within places, and at the start it might be difficult, you'll reach like a little bit of a point where people resist against it. But once it's instilled, then you don't have to reinstill it. Like the people like in those privileged positions where they are like high level fighters in the UFC, like Louis Scott, then they will actually enforce that for you. Then you can just sit back and be the good guy.
Yeah, makes your job easier.
Yeah, I can be the good guy now. I know that nothing's going to escape. I'll get a message, did you see what happened over here and all that type of stuff, but I don't need to be like the headmaster. You know, I've like if you want to call people team captains, but I call them like social captains. They're going to make sure that those standards that we set are not there. But to answer your question about high level performers, obviously once you get to a high level performer, say the likes of Atiba, who came over from Cameroon and came from nothing, and now when you go to America, when you go to all these places, it gets recognized and all that type of stuff. Yeah, you're going to meet those things, and then you get money that comes involved, and like people and money is a different equation again. The more money you make, perhaps but yeah, I enjoy that. That to me is like, I'm learning. I don't believe that I've ever completed anything. I think that once you start thinking like that, it's a downward spiral, but I'm learning how to deal with like fame. I'm learning how to deal with celebrity. I'm learning how to deal with all these things and just making it sure that it's, I think if you've already instilled the relationship with somebody where you can be completely honest with them, then you should be completely honest with them, irrespective of who they were and who they are now. And that's why I really enjoy that side of it. It's the thing that I enjoy the most, and see like people develop as characters, but also they're going to kind of develop not only good habits, but bad habits too. Yeah,
for sure. And so then on that kind of developmental journey, like what is it about a particular guy who walks into the gym that like, are there any tells that this guy is going to be the next Atiba, the next Louis Lee Scott, or is that a potential that anybody has?
Have you seen Atiba? I think there was a few tells. I think there was a few tells when he walked into the gym. This guy could do something in fighting. I think for me, what the most important thing is obviously it comes down to the 4 things about fighting that you guys know. The 4 pillars of fighting: technique, tactical, physical, and then most important to me is the mental side of it. So I'll be honest. Out of all the coaches in the region, I put people into fights before they are quote unquote ready, because I think if you come to me and say I want to fight, that already is a fantastic start. Because I think some people can be overcooked in the gyms. They get over prepared. They're like really good technical side of it, but maybe fighting's become such a difficult bridge to cross, because it's like, you need to get to this level before you can do that and that. I'm like, all right, you want to fight? Let's have a fight. I think that's a major side of it. So the mental side of it, and really how like you learn. Like to me, I'm obsessed with like how people learn and how I break it down to people, how to speak your language. So I want to. That's why I like to get to know the guys, because I want to know how you learn, and I just think it's all the mental approach of it. And some people just see fighting through such a different lens. They're so intelligent, and like they might not be like quote unquote scholastic guys. They might be able to like do tests, but when you speak to them about fighting, they just see it through like they have a completely different lens for it. And I've got time for that. I'll talk to those guys forever, and then I'll learn as much from them as they did from me.
Nice.
So what really separates guys? Because you'll have had it loads, even we've seen it. You'll have seen it even more. Everyone comes into the gym that, I want to be a fighter, I want to do this and that, especially at top team when they're surrounded by so many great guys, they're probably like following on from them. What kind of like splits the guys who you can tell, like, you do want to be a fighter and you're just kind of pretending? Can you tell?
Yeah. Well, I think to split something that makes the right sounds. Like it's so easy to say, I want to be this. I don't judge people on words like
what they're gonna show.
I don't judge people because it's so easy to say something. And maybe when you say it at the start, you mean it. But what's hard is the consistent way of backing that up with action, and repetitive action equals progress, doesn't it? So like, I believe when people say it, but I don't. I always say, don't tell me, show me. You know what I mean? And then like, I think a lot of people want to be a fighter. Like, who doesn't want to be a fighter? I think throughout history, over the past,
if you had the choice,
civilization, being a fighter, you was the strongest member of any community forever and ever and a day. Do you know what I mean? I think I'm watching a TV series, The Vikings. I'm like, I'm into this, and this was like 2,000 years ago. So everybody wants to be a fighter, but to have what it takes to be a fighter, of course you need all the physical acumen. Of course you need all this type of stuff. But I just think it's all mental. It's all up here. I think Teddy Atlas said it best, didn't he?
Yeah. So now looking slightly maybe more at the more technical side, not necessarily, but you've got a massive room with lots of amateurs at the junior level and at the adult level who are all rising through those ranks. Then bigger picture, are there things that amateur fighters or maybe even early pros are overvaluing in their training versus things that they're undervaluing? You've talked a bit about the mental side of things. I'm assuming that's a big component, but are there other aspects of the fight game that you think should be given a bit more attention?
I'll throw it back to you actually, Harry. What's the difference between amateur and professional?
Well, obviously there's the financial element. There's actually fighting to earn money, but there's changes in the rule set. There's changes in the stakes. It goes from being an amateur record where fundamentally you're learning. It's about skill building, versus now we're cementing a legacy that is, people are going to search up your name and your pro record. That is permanent. And so there's an amount of preparation needed for that that's much more significant. I also think, again, maybe speaking personally, pro really feels like the opportunity to prove that you are one of the best. And I think all of us want to be able to strive for that and prove that. And that takes a certain level of preparation. Anybody can take an amateur fight. Anybody can step in and, train, once a day in a week and then take a fight on, 3 or 4 weeks notice. Being a professional means dedicating your full life to it. It means having your nutrition in check. It means, like you say, showing up when you say you're going to show up. Even just putting in the reps for a certain amount of time. I think people who take professional fights really, really quickly probably aren't giving enough respect to the game as they maybe should. All of that to say, I think that professional should have a marked increase in the seriousness with which you take that preparation.
Yeah, I agree with all points, to be honest. The difference between amateur and professional is approach. So you guys train. You have people in your gym that are professionals. You have people in your gym that are amateurs. But you also have people in the gym that are amateur in approach as a professional. You have people in the gym that are professional as approach as an amateur.
Yes.
This makes sense. And it's just about instilling that culture. That's why it's been difficult, because we've got so many guys. So now there is a few days where there's separation between amateurs on the mat and professionals on the mat. But I'm really, think about boxing. It wasn't so long ago that you couldn't actually have an amateur gym and a professional gym in the same gym because of licensing and things like that. But if you want to learn, I believe in myself massively. I believe that I can tell you how to do things, and that's one way of learning, isn't it? I show you this, you react in that way, and we do repetition and we get better. But you need people who are showing you how to do it. And I need to point over to a Louis Lee Scott, to a Lewis McGrillen, and say to this guy, you could be that guy. What's stopping you from being that guy? And it's only ever approach, isn't it? And a lot of the things that you spoke about turning over professional, which you guys are blessed to be able to go and go out there and take it with both hands and do all those things. But a lot of those things that you profess to were kind of in that regard, isn't it? So you need people to show you need people to tell you, and then you need to start. Finish the same way you started. Why did you start training? What was your goals? And when you get there, some people take it for granted. I can be accused of that sometimes, and complaining about little things and things like that. But I always go home and I thank God, and I know that I'm blessed to do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
On that note, obviously we spoke about amateurs who have a professional approach. I feel like me and Harry, we've always had that approach, knowing where the end goal is. How do you feel about guys who have an amateur approach to training, even if they're an amateur? So let's say that there's guys, all they want to do, their end goal is have a few fights. How do you feel? Do you treat those guys any different? Do you give them a bit less time? Because maybe it's a bit of a narrow-minded way of thinking. But for me, I think if you want to be an MMA fighter, you've got to give everything to it. It really bugs me seeing guys training 3 times a week, getting ready for a fight, when we're training 12 sessions a week.
Yeah.
To fight.
This is the hurt business, isn't it? I think but you guys get it. You can't be 99% in. If you're 99% in, you're 100% out. That's my opinion. Yeah. But that fighting can be for everybody. And this what a lot of my guys that are like yourself, that are 100% committed. Do you know, when I give my time to the people that you just detailed, the ones that are just going to come and have a few fights, why are you wasting your time on that? And I'm I'm learning. I want to learn how I don't write people off, and I think a lot of people don't come into the gym and say, I just want to have a few fights. They'll never admit that.
Yeah.
Everyone comes in and say, I want to be that. Oh, I know that I can be the best fighter in the gym and all that type of stuff. And again, it's just words, isn't it? And it's backed up with action. And for us, we don't understand it. I'll be honest with you, I'm an obsessive person about it. I've never done something a little bit. I've never just had a go at anything. I have to really choose my habits wisely, because I know that I just can't just do something. I'm 100% in, all I'm out. I'm no good at flat pack furniture. I'll never do it. I don't think I'm too good for it. I'd prefer to pay for somebody to do it. But if I'm gonna do something, I want to be the best at it. And I can't really have empathy for people that aren't that way, because I don't understand it. Not one atom in my body understands it. But what I'm trying to do, I'm going to try to understand and how I can get something for them, how I can perhaps get these guys that are hobbyists and have them realize the goal and share that with them. Do you know, from a coaching standpoint, I see life in a microcosm just sped up. I get to experience I get to know more about you. Like say Harry came to my gym for a year, he had 3 fights. I think that I'd know more about you at the end of the year than I would do like a guy that I've known 15 years. Because I've seen you break, I've seen you win, I've seen you lose, I've seen you how you react to things, I've seen you like, that makes sense. So I want to learn, I want to absorb all these experiences with people. Of course I want to be around high performers, I want to be around, but the wheat separates from the chaff anyway. And that isn't, it's not for me to say, listen, you guys don't really want it and this guy does. That like the truth is always exposed, isn't it? The truth will come out in the end, and I like fighting is the most honest pursuit in the world. That's why I love it. I don't like lies. I don't like liars. I like it because what you do, what you didn't do, what you said you was going to do, what you lied about, it's all going to be exposed under bright lights with your underpants on, fighting another man, innit? Let's get it cracking.
The reason why I asked that is I'd love to see like amateur, semi-pro and pro. I don't know if your kind of thoughts on that, but if you think about obviously some of the amateurs in your gym, Caleb Mullen just had like an insane amateur fight with one of our guys, Rabbi and Batter. That kind of level of amateur fighting is so high level for someone who wants to be a hobbyist, for example, and they're training a few days a week. They're like working a 9 to 5 and doing an hour at the end of the day, all to build up to like what's a huge fight for them. Like, could you imagine a hobbyist fighting one of those like top amateurs like Caleb or like Rabbi? Do you think you'd rather see more tiered systems in amateur? Because sometimes you see amateur, a debut, a guy who might have trained for like 3-4 years, he's like legit, really hungry, wants to go pro, and he's fighting some guy who's a school teacher who hasn't got a chance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I said, I think fighting's for everybody. It's such a multifaceted question for me. When I started, there was semi-pro, amateur, and pro. That was kind of the way it was done, and all it meant is like you couldn't elbow. Excuse me. But I do think this. Like, what would you change? The rule sets, like the matchmaking, and all that type of stuff. I think I'm already not a fan of junior MMA. I'm not a fan of it. Obviously, I'm a fan of the competition. My daughter's 9 years old and she's had 5 fights herself. I'm a fan of like getting the reps in the competition. I think it's the advantage that Americans have over us by wrestling in front of 3,000 people every week. I've been to those wrestling meets. It's like a cauldron sometimes. You're learning so much about yourself. It's a massive advantage, like the reps of competition. And to go off topic, it's probably why Gaethje did so well. Like his competitive reps are real good. Yes, to answer your question, it'd be great, wouldn't it? I'm always a big fan of. I like high level fights, but I also like low level fights when both guys are on the same level.
Yes.
In fact, they might be my favorite fights because they're actual fights. So yeah, I don't want to see an off the couch guy who's been 3 months of training fight a high level amateurs that's got 4 years under his belt, ready to turn professional. I don't want to see like what we used to call like a tomato can fight. I don't want to see that. But yeah, I would love to see. But the only thing is, Russian, I'm an honest person, yeah? If someone says to me, this guy's been fighting 3 months, have you got somebody else? Like, in fact, I'm helping match a show next weekend. There's a guy that I know isn't of a great level. Do I have somebody in the gym that's not had a fight that could definitely beat him up? Yes, without a question. But what benefit is that to either side? And thankfully in UK MMA, we're moving away from like the journeyman side of it all and everything like that. And maybe there's a place for that further down the line when you get these guys that are hobbyists having a fight. So yeah, I would love to see honest matchmaking. I think we need it to be regulated. UK MMA is a bit of the Wild Wild West though. We need a bit more regulation. I'm sure that's going to come in time with the work that Mark Goddard's doing right now. But I would like to see an honest assessment of it as well. But because people want competitive advantages, this is fighting. It just, you understand what I'm trying to say? I want it to be where everyone can fight and get to like grow. I always like white collar boxing because the coaches are more invested in their amateurs. So they like have honest white collar fights against people at the same level and like great, like absolute straightness. I'm a big fan of.
We talked a bit about the difference between amateur preparation and professional preparation. What about the gradations between types of professionals? So you've got your guys having their professional debuts, maybe regional pros, and then contrast that with guys, say, in the UFC or elite level organizations. How do those guys sort of vary, or should their preparation largely look the same?
And you could probably take Louis Lee Scott as an example. You've had him for so long. How has he been different from his pro debut to what's going to be his UFC debut, hopefully at the back end of this year?
Yeah, I think that you really need to instill everything before you get to that point, because that's what like for me, I'm doing my guys a disservice if I think that I'm an expert in nutrition, for instance. I know enough to be dangerous. In fact, I know a little bit more than that. But I just think what we want to instill as a professional culture, we're not like a martial arts gym. So by the time you get to these opportunities, we should already, like, in terms of a gradation, you should already know how he can step up to the next level. Like, again, it's just the difference between a regional pro and a UFC fighter, in my opinion, is just the mental, like, approach towards the game and the mental approach towards learning, and like how you're listening in the corner. In terms of how, yeah, we might professionalize it in a little bit of details. I'm not professing for 1 second that I think that I've got the method. I'm always looking to improve on things that we're doing. We'll put together a schedule that everybody's agreed on, and we'll make sure that every week, especially with the guys at the highest level, every week I assess the schedule with them and say, which session did you think benefited? Which session do you think took away? Have we done, like, say for instance, we got 12 sessions on the schedule plus strength condition. Is that too much? Do we need to deload this week? And like keep the conversation honest and open. And then, like, as long as we both agree on it and there's not cutting any corners, it's how you structure a camp. But as you well know, fighting is not perfect. We go, like, how often do you go in there fully fit? How often do you go in there?
Yeah,
and
never.
I'd much prefer my guys to be undertrained than overtrained every day that ends in Y. So you've all felt like flat when you got in there and had a tough weight cut and been like, I don't feel like I'm myself in there. So yeah, I think by the time we get to the UFC, we've at least got to have to have 90% of what we're expecting of one another outlined, obviously, because what happens is this: you lose and then you want to change things. Like, the horse is already bolted. Like, Atiba beat a guy called Andrei Pelayev in the UFC 2 fights ago, and it felt like a loss. Just because I knew some of the things in camp wasn't 100%, and so did he. And then by that, we reinvented the whole schedule. We professionalized lots of things that you needed to do, not necessarily on the mat, but outside of that. And then it's always an assessment period like that. I'll always invite open conversation. I have an outline of how I think camp should be ran for people. Everybody's different type of athlete. I have heavyweights that can't do the same schedule as a flyweight. But we're just I don't think we're ever going to perfect it. I change the schedule often. I change my expectations just as often. But we just keep it open and honest. And like Louis Lee Scott, 20 years of almost fighting. He's only 25 years old. I've had Lewis McGrillen now for 11 years. We have we have things that work, but we have things that we're always developing, and we just keep it honest. And then sometimes you like hit a bit of gold, or sometimes you think you've struck gold, and they're like, I didn't really want to do that session. I was like,
Do you think with guys like Louis and like Lewis, it's a case of we can see how good they are now, like say on the pro debut, we can see how good they are, how professional they've been, the standards that you've set and instilled in them right from the start, and they've held them, and they're clearly going to hold them for the rest of their career.
Not clearly.
Well, as long as you stay on top of it, and they have done so far. And is it a case of from the debut to getting to where they're getting to, it really is going to be as simple as it's just time served now, as with the same things that they've been doing. It's not like anything major has to change. It's like Louis Lee Scott's making his pro debut, Lewis McGrillen's making his pro debut. If he continues on this same trajectory and nothing goes majorly wrong, is it just going to be time served? 5 years, he'll be here.
Yeah, but I would never. That's unspoken. You know, because you know, like, fighting's honest, isn't it? And then once you get complacent, they're like, oh, I've just got to serve my time, and it's going to get to this. And I think serving time isn't never enough. The people that you spoke about are like perfectionists. Obviously, I was blessed to work with some great fighters, Laurent Murphy, Dakota Ditchev. Like, what they all share is like, I think the fighting's never perfect. In fact, I think the sport's never perfect. It's not perfect. At best, it's 7 out of 10. Yeah, but if you're constantly striving for perfection, not just on a performance day, but every single day, then it's time served.
It's quality time served.
Then it's time served. But like, if you think that I've just got to show up, I'm around great people and all these types of things, I'm going to absorb things and get along, that's entry level stuff. Yeah. So yes, I think like, you know, practice makes perfect, but perfect practice makes perfect. So we've got to always strive towards that. Like in the knowledge, it's like like, you know, like the greyhound chasing the little rabbit. He's never going to catch it. But we've got to keep pushing towards that thing. So yeah, it's definitely time spent, but time spent wisely, because otherwise it's time wasted.
Yeah. So zooming out now from maybe the coaching side of things, perhaps more as a fan, when you're watching a fight, Carl, what are some of the things that you're looking at that you think maybe other people are missing?
My artist mind. I don't even know that I really like enjoy watching fighting anymore. It's like, I think sometimes you can know too much. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I used to like music, and then I really got into music. Then I started manufacturing music, and then I was like adding up like 4x4, 8x8, 16x16. I was like, I don't think I really like music anymore. So yeah, I'm looking at mostly. I don't think that fighting's that complicated, to be honest. I'm looking at foundation fundamentals. I'm looking for pattern development, and I'm looking for the elite level fighters about positioning, like irrespective of it being grappling, striking, boxing, jiu-jitsu, the concepts and what's right will always be right. And I want to look for the fundamentals of position, the fundamentals of footwork. Footwork and position, to me, are the most important things in fighting, bar none. And then you can add in the nuances of who you are as a person, feints, etc. And then if you have patterns that are easy to read, then it's game over for you. So yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Right. There we go. So now zooming back in maybe very immediately to when you're in that environment, it's one thing watching as a fan, it's another thing when you're there in the corner. So what makes a good corner team? What are the things that you're trying to do when you're in there? Again, you've talked about being a black belt in communication. Mm-hmm. How does that translate to being physically in the corner rather than just coaching on the mats?
Yeah, you just got to be in the moment, and you don't want to overcomplicate it. You have to know who you're speaking to, and how I would speak to Roshan versus how I would speak to you in the corner would be very different. Because I probably have little cues with you that I know you're going to buy into, and I don't want to overcomplicate it any times. And I think that's kind of been instilled in camp. Obviously, you'll have like set things that you want to do, but for me, I would never profess to being a great athlete. I was pretty competitive in a lot of things, but I always had a great mind, and I could see things in the moment, and I really relay it. So as long as that we're on the same page and everything like that, and I think that they can do it better than I can do it, and I trust in the top guys that they can see it just as well as I can. But just to get in there and if you have synergy with your guy, you can really affect the course of the fight if they believe in you and you believe in them. And that's instilled much before the fight. But I think that generally that's where I come alive on the night. And I do enjoy it. Like, I don't enjoy anything more than being in the corner for my guys and everything like that. It's like, I think when you was a kid at school, I got involved in many fights, and like, if you had a bit of you turn around, you had two of your mates behind you who were like, do you know what I mean? I didn't think you could ever lose. So that's what I just think cornering is a supporting eye and a supporting arm, and then like processing information together in real time under pressure. Like, it's the best problem you could ever solve, and I love solving it with my guys. Yeah.
Is that something you like work on in the gym? So like, I know we have on a Tuesday night, we have fight sims up in the cage, and we will have Liam sat there giving instruction to one of the fighters, and it's kind of to cue us into his voice, get a sense for what kind of instruction he's going to give us. Do you work on anything similar like that? Like, do you practice that?
Yeah,
cornering?
Not to that determination, not as much as that. Obviously, the guy, I've got I know how to project my voice and everything like that, and the guys hear me and everything like that. So yeah, we don't do fight simulation per se. We kind of did that a little bit of time. I wasn't thinking that I needed it permanently in the schedule. But yeah, when what we've added recently, we have lights on the cage, because I think sometimes when you're fighting, it's the first time like lights are above your eyes and it can be a bit confusing. I've just ordered some stools so I can get in between the rounds of just normal sparring. And then I'm pretty much the only coach that we have. So if they don't know my voice by the time they got there, they've not been showing up, and they don't deserve to fight anyway at that point.
Yeah, nice. Well, so, okay, now big zoom out. What does UK MMA need to do to become a world leader? We've seen rapid growth. We've had, I mean, just in our lifetime, I know we've gone from having like no British UFC champions to now having a bunch. What do you think the things we need to do sort of nationally to begin rivaling America, Russia, maybe Brazil to some extent? They still have a fairly strong foothold. or are we already on that trajectory?
I genuinely believe we're on the right trajectory. Like if you look at junior MMA, I know that not all like America don't have children compete underneath the age of 18. They're already doing their sports, their soft sports, what I would call soft sports like wrestling, etc., and doing their soft skills in that way. Our kids are getting more reps in junior MMA. Personally, we have like quite a lot of high performers under the age of 18 that have already like so deep in the sport now by competitive parenting, etc. What do I think that UK MMA need more is, I think that we need to stop being so partisan. As you guys know, Roshan's been down to our gym many occasions. I just think everybody needs an open door policy, like, because if you want to be the best in the UK, then you close your doors to everybody else. I think it's an antiquated way of doing it. I think it's a martial arts way of doing it. As a professional sport, what it should be is the best should train with the best, and there should be access to one another, and not just for people to speak about it. Or you see someone at the show, oh, you have to come do some training with us next week. They don't really mean it and all that. I think that there should be, if we generally as a nation want to be supporting one another and want to be the best should train with the best. The doors should be open. I know that I'm not the best in every facet of MMA. I know that I am in some. Why wouldn't people lean on that? Just because, like I said, it's like a competitive rivalry that needs to be done away with. Like World Cup's going on right now. So does that mean Man United players aren't allowed to play with Man City players just because they're competitors? No, they meet up at the national. There should be a national, like what the juniors have, what the IMF people have, where they meet up and have training days. There should be that. There should be that. But why isn't there that? Just because people are protective over what's theirs. And I know that money's involved and things like that, but if you really believe in yourself, let people go. They never go and go away. If you're putting on a good product, people don't leave and not come back. They leave, bring things in, and make your product better. I think there should be like monthly elite level training days for the very elite fighters. I understand why it doesn't happen, but I think that it should be.
Do you think because obviously fighting is very personal, you know, it's one thing to be a football player and like, oh, I play for this club at this point, and then we meet together to play for the national team. But obviously fighting is quite elevated. So what needs to change? Maybe like you say, more in the amateur scene to make less of a, not necessarily toxic, but that that kind of confrontational culture where, you know, oh, if we've fought people from this gym, we're never going to train with them. How would you go about changing that? It seems like quite an ingrained tribal instinct.
Yeah, you're probably right, Harry. I think it is going to be one of the difficult puzzles. Like, not everybody's going to like it, but even in the gym on your mat, not everybody likes one another. It's unrealistic to think that everyone's going to be best friends. But if you want to think about it from an England standpoint or an English standpoint or perhaps a UK standpoint, not to besmirch our friends in Wales and Scotland, obviously, I just think that, it is tribal. People are tribal. There are going to be in that ways, but I think there's only so many people that are UFC standard. There's only so many people that, what do we have, like 40 guys in the UFC right now from the nation? If you want more, you have to be around, like attracts like, doesn't it? And like we see your friends, see your future type scenario. I think it's a blue sky scenario that probably will never occur. But I think that if we want to have, like I believe we can have, champions in every single weight class across every, like UFC champions across every weight class from England, wouldn't that be a great thing for us in the sport? And would it be a great thing for everybody in blossoming academies? But it's a business to people. Like having an A-star fighter in my gym brings people to my gym. So I can understand why people wouldn't want to do it, but I would really be the guy. I'd be the wheelstone raider of cheering on that.
Love it. So, Carl, what do people misunderstand about your job? We've talked about all different levels of like the mental side of working with people, of the preparation that fighters have to undergo. People who are outside the sport of MMA, what are some of the misconceptions they have about what an MMA coach does? And how does that illuminate more of what your real role is? Like you both are competitors still, so you understand that fighting's a very selfish pursuit, and like coaching is always known as an unselfish one. I dispute that.
a lot in a lot of ways. Obviously, I think what people see from the outset is you get to walk out of these arenas in front of, like, I'm blessed, like in front of 20,000 people every weekend at this stage, it seems like, and never take it for granted. Sometimes you look around and you're like, oh my goodness, how did we get here? But I think when you have a goal and a vision, it's like kind of selfish. I have family at home. Like I'm away a lot of times. I miss out on a lot of things and that type of stuff. And even my daughters always say to me, "Oh, Daddy, you going on holiday again this week?" And I'm like, if only it's never a holiday. Like anyone that's traveled around a lot would say that you don't really get much downtime. You spend a lot of time in a hotel or an airport or in between the two.
Watching fights cut weight.
Doing a science experiment with somebody that you've just come away with and watching them boil in a bag like Uncle Ben's, So yeah, it's I'd never complain about it. It's it's the most unselfish pursuit that you could possibly have, because you kind of giving yourself to other people. The misconceptions that you have is you just get to see the glory, don't you? But like when my guys lose, I lose. In fact, we're off the back of a few average results recently, and in fights that I thought we should have won, and then you go home with that, and then I believe that we've been working on some things amazingly recently. In fact, the training's been the best it's ever been, and it's not reflected in results. So then you go home and you're like, oh, is this something I'm doing? I don't for one second think that it is. I truly believe that we're on the right path, but fighting's not fair, is it always?
Yeah.
So and then going back to other people's families, and it's a great job. I get to see so much things that are going on. So I don't think I've come anywhere near answering your question there, Harry, but thanks for the question anyway, mate.
That's all good. Well, you kind of mentioned like results, and so what are your, like, how do you goal set for yourself? Because obviously, as competitors, it's very easy for us in a way. We just kind of go, I want to fight on this particular date. I want to win. I want to win in a emphatic fashion. It's fairly straightforward, A, B. As a coach, how do you think about goal setting, and then kind of progressing from that? What are your big goals for the next sort of 6 months, 12 months? What are the success stories that you're looking to have?
Yeah, I remember when we first started, I think I did like a few posts. Like I'd do like a yearly post that would put down like how many fights we had and how many we won. And I think for the first year, it was like a boastful post, because I think we had like 30 something fights and we won 30 something fights. So it was like, oh, look at this, we're this and we're that. And then I realized that it wasn't really, of course it's a results based business. It wasn't really about that. It was about overall progress. And the like for me, my amateurs, Caleb Mullen included, have won as many fights as they've lost. But like by the time they get to the we need those looks. I've got a young kid called Dylan Hall who's like 4 and 6, but he's so capable. He's getting better all the time. He won't take an easy fight. He's having the hardest fights you can possibly get. So how do I gauge overall? It's just in the level of, I've got like weight class goals as well. In the level of everybody bringing one another forward. I'm a competitor as well. I used to always think about winning and losing, and like I'm obviously more concerned with that when you turn pro. So like in terms of my goals for that, we need to win many, many, many more fights than we lose, and we're currently doing that. I'm not overly careful with who we fight at the moment. Maybe that's been like perhaps with the results, but what I want from us in the next 6 months, I think that we should have another fighter in the UFC, which is entry level stuff. Louis would have made his UFC debut. Atiba will move to 6-0 in the UFC. I'm not going to tell you what my record is in the UFC because it sounds like I'm bragging. And then just keep going, man. Like I like the only thing about goals and goal setting is it's like when you achieve it, it's pretty empty anyway. Like if you set this goal, if someone would have told me when I started that I would have done one corner in the UFC, I'd be like, no way, mate. And now I'm like 15 fights deep in there. So the only thing about goals is when you get there, they're empty. Just to let you guys know, it's like an empty feeling. It's like winning. You build up to something, you get there like, it's never
quite as good as it seems. Yeah, you always want the next thing.
There's a good idea in it, but it's kind of an empty notion, isn't it? But then, goal setting. I have an overall dream and a vision for where it needs to go. And as long as if every calendar year Thanks, Pope Gregory, for the calendar. If at the end of every calendar year we're a little bit closer to realizing that goal, that legacy of becoming the biggest thing that, from a fighting perspective, let alone MMA, that Manchester's ever seen, and then we can become like renowned like globally as the, like, spoken of, if not as the best, as the top 3 in the world, and then we're emerging ever closer. But once I get there, then I'll be like, all right, yeah, now we need to do this, and we need to get that, and we need to get this UFC champion, we need to get this and that and that. But I need my guys to be fully invested in order for that to occur. I need to keep the same resolve that I have right now in order for that to occur. And that's a non-negotiable. So let's get it.
Alrighty, Carl. So last thing, we've got some quick fire questions, nice and speedy. What's been more impactful on the way we train MMA? The influence of BJJ in the 90s or the influence of Dagestan wrestling today?
Dagestan wrestling, yeah.
Nice. Who is the greatest coach in the history of MMA?
The greatest coach in the history of MMA is Andre Pederneiras.
What makes a great leader?
By not thinking that they're a leader.
What's the most important foundational fight discipline to have in MMA?
Boxing and wrestling.
Nice, nice. What's your favorite method of victory?
Knockout, TKO.
Nice. What is the craziest thing you've ever seen happen in a fight?
You want this to be quick? The craziest thing I've seen happen. I've seen so many. I've seen like a guy get slammed through the cage that was actually my cage and cost me a lot of money, but that's another story.
Oh, all the way through?
All the way, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's not great. What's the most difficult, who's the most difficult fighter to comply with a weight cut?
It's gotta be Paulo Costa, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. What's the maddest post-weigh-in meal you've seen?
Everyone used to eat Nando's, didn't they, straight away?
Oh, Nando's is banging.
Yeah, but not straight after. Like, yeah, yeah.
Maybe on the evening. Let's see. Who is the most talented fighter you've ever worked with?
Athletically talented. I feel like I need to say no comment. Athletically talented, Atiba Gautier. Yeah.
And finally, if Manchester Top Team has a motto, what would it be?
One team, one dream.
Nice. Amazing. Carl Prince, thank you so much for coming through. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Cheers, gentlemen. Thank you.